oh boy, here we go, here we go. It's your girl Fathom DJ Live and Direct. You will find this video whenever you find it, me looking however I look, child. When I have inspiration and I have things to say, you will have to omit the vessel and receive the message when it happens. Of course, it's Saturday and everyone is out having a wonderful afternoon, evening. And I'm not, because I'm getting ready to rest for tonight. I'm going to say a few things and hopefully you will find my heart and my love in it. So just a little while ago, and like I said, I'm not going to say any names because these people have a right to say what they say and the right to do what they do and the right to feel the way they feel as I do. And as this is my page, I will make my points on this page and hope that someone will be inspired and encouraged by my movements and my ideas. So I had a conversation. I wish I could probably pull it up while I'm talking. I had a little bit of an interaction with someone who is considered an elder in terms of this music scene. And I just had it. And everyone will have their own way of bringing things to the table. Charles Williams, happy birthday, sir. Happy birthday. Everyone will have their own way of bringing things to the table. Everyone has their own position to play in the grander scheme of things. We most certainly should be having dialogue amongst each other. We most certainly should be thinking about the things that we do and being intentional about the representation that we want to have. As you well know, Chicago is the founding father of a bunch of musical genres. You know, as Chicago is, in essence, the gateway to the North for a lot of people who came from Mississippi and from the southern states to the north of this country. They came through Chicago. Blues and jazz were in their backpacks. We carry those traditions. They come from gospel. They come from blues, they come from jazz, they enter soul, they stem through R&B. They most certainly make their way to house, disco, and funk, and all of these influences. But we are talking today specifically about Chicago house music because one of the sound bearers for the 80s made a statement. And I say sound bearers, I mean DJs. I want to make sure that you know that this is specific. When I say sound bearers, I mean DJs. During that period, made a statement today, and I tried. You know, of course, as a statement becomes far more popular, more people get to see it. What I'm finding is that we have so many people who easily jump on bandwagons, who don't think because they want to be a part of something. That a lot of the information and representation that I think is important for the future to see is being lost. So without directly citing this cat's information, what he simply said is something to the effect of real DJs buying music from particular places and in a particular period. And of course, it grated me because, as you will find in another post that I recently did, I have an issue with the elders not being interested in conveying that information, conveying a representation, and helping those who are younger navigate in this particular arena of music specifically. But in general, a lot of our elders are, sitting on the front porch and they want to talk about their contributions. But if you're belittling people who did not come from that era, if you're denigrating, or even in theory, because you may not be like purposely and intentionally saying negative things about people who weren't from that era, but if you give the theme that you're looking to exclude and categorize a particular group of people for music that is still being needed, it's being made, it's being passed down generation to generation, it's being promoted, and people are watching. If you are denigrating and belittling those people who have the intention of carrying the torch for your contributions prior, then you are burning bridges. You're burning bridges. And I'm not the politic police. I got my own issues. What I love is this music. This particular genre of music, being house music, was a part of my upbringing. It wasn't my first love, I will say, because I came up during an era when hip hop, based on my view, and breakdancing was becoming popular. And it was prominent based on the idea that New York was the bearer of culture. Not to say that Chicago didn't have influences in hip hop during that period, but from my TV, from my radio, from my perspective via music, what was at the forefront were b-boys, breakdancing, DJing, and that culture came out of New York. When you open that culture and you start to dissect what that culture was made of, you have soul, funk, disco, some jazz, a lot of Latin percussion and influences, a lot of blues, mixed all together that created the sound of hip hop. Somewhere in that, Chicago was getting its bearings for house music. So during my period of conception, during my period of upbringing, you had all of these genres that were playing and swirling around, and they were being mixed together, which is part of the reason why people, will say, well, she don't play house music, or, she play hip hop, so it don't count. Because during my period of coming to a particular age, we had like the Jungle Brothers were doing kind of mixing soul and funk and disco and making hip hop. We had De La Soul that was mixing soul and funk and disco and making hip hop. And they were taking from all of those genres. When you think about it, Africa Bambaataa and the whole concept of electro hip hop was dance music. So when I see people who I consider elders coming to the table and wanting to talk about how real that their period was, respectfully, if you are not, you can't encourage people who are going to come after you if you don't acknowledge their contributions. And saying something like real leads me, I'll take the hit directly. It leads me to believe that everything that came after, in your opinion, is fake. And as far as I understand, vinyl is still being produced. Turntables are still being produced. There are DJs younger than us. If you're in your 40s or 30s, there are DJs younger than we are. There are DJs who are like 8 and 10 and shit. I'm seeing those people pop up in the world and getting promotions and getting accolades. You have tons of people who are undertaking this art of DJing. Now, some of them ain't artists, some of them ain't good, some of them are not real. But what you don't want to do is box out everything that wasn't based on a generation that you were a part of, because the world keeps spinning and people keep creating. What I see as a problem right now, and this is my platform and I can do and say what I want to do, thank the Lord. What I see as the problem right now is the fact that we have so many people in Chicago who are under-acknowledged, that bitterness is being created, that they are mad because folk are not acknowledging them specifically. So now they're taking to their rightful spaces and creating arguments and saying things and trying to figure out how to get somebody's attention. And I get it. I totally get it, man. Like, every year something happens that makes me go, I must not be doing enough. Or these particular people don't like me or whatever. But what we all have is a position. And my position may not be at the top. My position may not be at the middle. Maybe it's at the bottom. But if I play my box and I represent the quality of music that my city is acknowledged for, is loved for, and is respected for, I'm doing my job to make sure that everybody understands that I'm a part of preserving a cultural artifact for our city. And as a DJ first, because most of us come into it, some of us come into it as producers at this point, but as a DJ and a cultural conveyor of sound, a DJ and a cultural conveyor of history, a DJ, a cultural conveyor of art and facts. My job is to present a representation for where I am, where I come from, and have people hopefully enjoy it. That's one of my missions. That doesn't mean that everybody else has the same mission. It's one of my missions. It's one of the reasons why right now I'm making a particular genre of music, because I'm interested in making sure that people have newer references and hopefully that production will lead people to me so that I can give my story just as I gave it to you right now on the concept of this music and what this music means to me. And that's a small thing. But if I'm playing wherever I play, if you're playing wherever you play, that is your position to help make sure that the music gets acknowledged. Every time a few particular people get a platform and all these other folks, and it's a million trillion of us in Chicago at the end of the day, and growing. Everybody wants to be a DJ now because it's the easiest way to get somebody to pay them attention. I'm not suggesting that everyone should. I'm not suggesting that everyone who takes to decks is real. I'm not suggesting that everyone who goes and buys vinyl, because there are people who have bought vinyl and have DJ equipment who have never been good at it. There are people who will continue to do that, who will never be good at it. That's commerce. That's commercialization. That is trend. We're talking about art. Now, if you're concerned about being acknowledged for your contributions, then you're going to continue to create in order to have people find your work. That is the reason why some of us are here in social media. Some of us are here in social media to grandstand. Hey, you know what I'm saying? I got some new turntables. You see that little envelope back there? I just got my new wireless keyboard. You know what I'm saying? I'm in here in the studio. Hey. For that reason. But some of us are here to make sure that we are referenceable. What production of music does, what production and creation of content does, is makes you referenceable. If you're not creating anything but talk, if you're not creating any new and relevant content, mixes, music, film, books, if you're not writing, muralist, whatever that thing is that helps to create content that is currently relevant, if you're not doing any of those things, you seek potentially being lost in the grander scheme of this. if I can't be on the stage, the grand stage, where these people will DJ and play, what I can do is create music that could potentially be played by those DJs on that stage. And if not those DJs, then you utilize the DJs who like the music that you play and have them play it and do that way. Everyone has a position. That's the way I see it. I can no longer be grandstanding in the acknowledgement. I can no longer assume that somebody is going to say she is the house DJ of all, or she is a dope female, she's the only one, because I'm not. Because there's so many other people who are coming up. Now is the time that you figure out how to enlighten and inspire and encourage those people who are new and old to continue, in order so the bulk of this music continues to have relevance. That's the grander scheme of this. The grander scheme of it is the fact that we got so many people all over the place looking for something to get acknowledgement for, that the bulk of the work that our forefathers did is being lost. That's more important than one person being the representation, to me. But if you only think one way, as some of our elders think, that the only one way is to be the one person that everybody comes to and worships, and then when people come to you, then you bash them because they're younger than you or they're less knowledgeable than you, how likely is it that they are going to continue to listen to you? They're not likely to listen to you. If I come to you as a youngin' and you say I'm a fraud or a fake, that I'm not real because I wasn't DJing in the 80s. I could not be DJing in the 80s because in the 80s, I was in grammar school. No, and I mean, and at this point, yes, we do have DJs who are young, who are 8, who are DJing. At this point, I was not DJing when I was 8 years old. But I bought records from some of those places. I have a history. I have an influence. I have someone particularly who I feel made me want to DJ, and that person is Little Lewis. So, and Little Lewis led me to discovering all of these other people. He wasn't the first DJ that I had ever heard DJ and play house music because I wasn't old enough. I had heard house music and danceable R&B played on the radio. I had heard house music from WKKC being played by the likes of Barbecue Bobby and Pink House. I had heard of people like Ron Hardy and Farley. I had heard of places like the Powerhouse, the Power Plant, and Lorraine's, and a bunch of other places. I had heard of those places. I had never been to those places because I was 6, 5, 4. Who knows how old I was? I don't even remember because, there were people playing house music before house music got prominent. So, this, like I said, you can go back. It's a rant. It's long. Find it when you will. But the concept that there's so many people that's like trying to figure out how to gain some notoriety off of this stuff that we're not getting further in doing it. Everybody has a position. If you banging every day, which I think is oversaturating, if you going live and DJing every day and you're playing house music, that's a representation of house music that needs to be continued. If I'm out in these clubs making sure to acknowledge house music in my set, then that's a representation of house music that needs to be acknowledged, because once everyone stops playing it, then it's over with. If I'm not, I have a 9-year-old cousin. When she's in town for the summer, she drives around with me. She learns the music that I'm listening to. She knows Maurice Joshua's remix of Do You Have It? Word for word, because I played it so much, summer before last, and we sing it together. This is how I'm passing the culture on. When I work in the places that I work, when I create my podcast, when I create more music, then I'm passing the culture on. People will be like, this sounds like Chicago music. Maybe she's from Chicago. And then they visit us. So we're all in our own way contributing and hoping, I hope. I don't really care. I don't really care about the House Head Summit. Maurice, I don't care about the House Head Summit. I don't, because I'm concerned that so many people are more interested in trying to figure out how to capitalize off of the popularity of this genre. I'm so much more concerned about people trying to figure out how to get fame off of it instead of simply contributing and standing for it. That these groups of people end up doing the same thing that this person who I'm talking about is doing, where you bring everybody in the room and everybody wants to stand around. I appreciate that, though. I appreciate it. If you go, I'm gonna move this a little bit because my house is a little junky, but I want to be able to read what you're saying. Okay, that's better. Yeah, I appreciate you informing me. I appreciate you enlightening me to that. But hey, what's happening, Kat? What's happening? So that's DJ XL, y'all, just so you know. He's also a long-term conveyor of this good music. But that's my whole point. Like, we can all contribute, and we can all be a part of continuing to further the narrative. I think we should be a little more open to these younger people when they come up and they're like, I want to play house music, or just making sure that they are aware of the coolness of the culture, the coolness of the energy, the coolness of the original period of its conception, and the coolness that can still be had in referencing it. Because in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, my tagline is expanding the universal language of music. So when I play, especially when I do private events and things of that nature, when I play for people, I want to reach everyone. So if I have to play a little trap music, and I have to play a little reggae, and I have to play a little soul and funk and a little R&B, when I do these weddings and things like that, when I mix all this music together, I get an opportunity to talk to a bunch of people who don't know me, a bunch of people who are together under the same act. So, but when you separate and divide generations, and you only acknowledge and you only affirm and confirm one particular group, then you ostracize everybody else. And that's the reason why you got these babies who are like, I ain't fucking with house music, because they old and they ain't, passing the traditions down, or they have no influence in today's music. And influence is going to determine how people reference you. And if you seek to belittle younger folks, if you seek not to acknowledge them, like I struggle with the trap. I struggle with rap music. I struggle with the darkness of that energy, because I know better, and I know light and love, and I know it doesn't sound anything like the music that I hear currently. I know it has a particular position to play in manipulating the minds of the youth. And I also know that the music that I play is powerful and can draw people who want better, who feel better, to know better, to me and those who play it. Like, there's a spirit, a very intentional spirit in house music that comes from gospel. And any tune that you hear, whether it's Sylvester or Eddie Kendricks, or Do You Have It by Maurice Joshua and DJ Spin, or Any of the tunes Louis Vega makes that has a spiritual intonation, any of those remixes, and Joe Classell and his percussion and his drums and the magical flutes, any of these people in Africa, Black Coffee, any of these people in Chicago who use the Fender Rose and its magic and intonation, any of those people who seek to provide an opportunity for folks to heal through music have to stay in a position of being open to the youth to help provide options. They may not choose because they got their own rappy trappy, music that is a different vibration from who we are, where we are. But if we belittle and denote those people, then they're not going to reference us for anything. So I can't spend a lot of time talking about Cardi B and whether I like or dislike her music. I can't spend a lot of time telling people how dope the 90s was, how many clubs I played in the 90s. I can't spend a lot of time. I can reference the periods upon which influenced me to do what I do. I can also reference how things have changed from then to now, but I cannot afford to belittle these people who are coming up because we can still influence them positively. And if we're not influencing them to potentially incorporate the music that we love so much, then it's going to be excluded. It's going to be excluded, and then everything that we work for is lost. And it's already getting lost. So while I don't even know how old this person is who made this incredible statement about being a real DJ and having shopped at particular shops in the 80s. I don't even know how old he is. I know a few of the places that I think he worked. But because he complains so much and doesn't necessarily reference his history, I can't see it. Let me see what my brother's saying, Chris Hilliard. Fathom, unfortunately, I've said these things for years, and instead of evolution, I got a negative vibe and fake feelings. So my advice to you is keep moving with good energy and use music to appreciate your motivation. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. I have no choice. I do, though, occasionally. Look at me, I'm moist. You see, that's passion. Can you see the sweat on my hands? Can you see the moisture? You see the moisture, Jesus? I want you to see the moisture. That's passion. I'm passionate about this music. I've put a lot of time and energy, as all of us have put into this music, into this space in Chicago for these particular reasons. And I would like the youth to continue to acknowledge us, Chris, because some of us are really fucking cool. Some of us are real cool, Chris. You real cool. You been cool. I see you cut up and everything. We still cool. We not old. We not dead. We still got it. We still have value. Some of us are still working in these clubs. Some of us are adding to the narrative, creating events, creating music. Some of us are playing overseas, and when we go overseas, we're mentioning where we're from, which is bringing people back to Chicago and making sure to acknowledge us. That's the position playing. So you are correct in the idea that we need to continue to do what we do and don't worry about them. Occasionally, a girl gets a little sensitive. Occasionally, and that's what content is for. That's why I bring these things to this space. For people to think about, and it also inspires my movement. I really didn't start focus on producing music continuously until the year before last. I had been studying and researching and understudying some people to get myself together to start, but I had to get from under them and start. And so my machine has started consistently pushing things out. I'm working my way through. I'm maintaining a few places where I can specifically play that music in Chicago so that people continue to have references for us in that music. That is a part of my contribution to continuing to helping preserve and convey the spirit and the energy of a music that I feel like we in the city helped found. We do have to talk about it, and I think I got distracted. For every DJ that comes out of Chicago who plays this music, who does not have a web presence, who does not have a website, who does not have a place where you can reference them that they control the content of, we have more likelihood that somebody is going to go and steal those ideas and get credit for the things that we do and not credit us. And that's part of the reason why we got so many non-African Americans, so many non-Chicagoans easily stepping in and replacing the face of us in this music. And this is not a suggestion that we shouldn't collaborate and we shouldn't be open to people, but in order for us to continue to be a part of that narrative, we have to push further. So that's what we're doing. We're going to push further. We're going to play our positions and continue to inspire those who are interested in being inspired, whether they are 15 people, 1, 2, 3, I don't know how many people are in my chat room right now, and the 5 that are viewing this, or whether it's 7,000, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 people overseas. Playing your position means to continue forward, continue creating, continue content, because regardless to how many people don't acknowledge you on this planet, somebody will go back and look for your work. And if you have music on the market, if you have blogs, if you have a website, if you have a YouTube channel, and you have places where people can find your work specifically, then they can put the story of your contributions together and present it. This is archiving. So this is the reason why I have these rants and what inspires me. So to close out this, because you know it's long as shit, and I only come to you when I'm passionate. So after all of the debate and the conversation, which most of the people who are in this chat with me right now will see what I said to this person who was on his grandstand, I said, my only position and concern at this point is having us, past, present, and future, be the best representation for those who choose, or chose, it should say choose, I gotta correct that, who choose to reference for what we do. If I can in that, if I can point them in a direction that helps us represent our city and our contributions to this sound, so be it. That's my only hope at this point. The future is bright. I'm interested in the future. I think that we have to speak to the differences, and we have to make sure that we are the best representation that we can be for what we do, so that if we are called upon, then we're ready. If we are indeed called upon to represent this music, we are ready to do so, because we don't know. We don't know who's looking at us. We don't know who's watching. We don't know what kind of representation they're going to see. And as I've said it before, and I will say it again before I close out, if people can't easily find your work in this universe, then they'll be left with all the bitter little conversations, all the negative energy, all the misfortunate things that happen to you, and they won't be able to find your content. But if you online bitching and complaining about who a real DJ is from the 80s and who ain't real because they didn't buy records, then you're clearly not focused on trying to create content so people can find you and your legacy and the position that you play in continuing to have this music be acknowledged. My goal, once again, is to make sure that I'm position playing here in my stance. And I'm position playing. And I thank you and I appreciate you for tuning in this afternoon for my bit of a rant. I get sensitive. I do, because I'm like, we've been working too hard for years. We have been working too hard for years to have the elders pop up and just be like, if you ain't make music in the 80s, then you're not a real DJ. You sound retarded. And I'm sorry, I'm getting loose. I'm getting loose and off my point. If you didn't buy music from this particular place and go to these parties in the 80s, then you ain't real. And I had to repeat that in the chat, because I'm like, I just want you to answer this, because I know right now we got tons of non-Black people who have anchored themselves in the culture of this music and are making tons of money off of, and you're sitting here belittling your children. Don't do it to yourself, bro. Anyway, you can find me in your worldwide webosphere at findandfathomdj.com as I type it in. As my camera is right here. Yeah. You can find me in your worldwide webosphere at findandfathomdj.com. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google Plus, Google Play. Yes, Ken White, I see you in your actions. And of course, we have a tune that just came out a couple weeks ago called When We Met, that's on the market, and you can find that on all of your major outlets, and there's an exclusive version on my Bandcamp page at fathomdj.bandcamp. When We Met is picking up steam. A lot of my Chicago DJs are playing it right now. We have a few people who are playing it in different places in Atlanta and things of that nature. I'm very proud and happy that I'm finally striking a chord with my production with some people. The follow-up is on the way. It's in the chamber. And Chris Hilliard, I appreciate you. I appreciate you especially today for bringing the concept of the naysayers and the work that we both know that we have done years and years. We've played together in this game of house music, and I just want people to continue to create, because if you're creating content, if you're creating music, if you're creating podcasts and mixes and events, then it might keep you from being that old bitter ass person who just wants to throw dirt on everybody because nobody's paying them any attention. That's it. That's all. I'm sending you cosmic kisses and well wishes to your day and week. If I have to, I'll give myself this as well. So I spend at a place called Bureau Bar every Sunday. Bureau Bar is in the South Loop at 75 East 16, in between Wabash and Michigan Avenue. On this night, I curated this night with my comrade Jeffrey Timms, who is a model and an actor and a singer, and as well a mixologist. We created this night exclusively for house music, because I think that if you find a little bar where you can play house music regardless, then when people go into these places, they will be mindful that house music is of Chicago and it's still being created, and it deserves to be preserved, and it deserves to continue with the legacy of the city that we're from. So that's it. So anyway, go back to whatever you're doing. If you're a DJ, make sure that you add some kind of content about, if you're a DJ from Chicago specifically, make sure to add some kind of house music content to your set. Make sure that you're creating some house music. Make sure that you're acknowledging some people who make house music or something, so that we don't have to be concerned about the legacy of this music dying. And I don't think it's going to die. I don't. It's morphing and being recreated and things of that nature. I do think that if we aren't concerned about getting the younger people hooked on playing this music and appreciating it, then we're going to have to be concerned about them representing it and speaking to the importance of it as it is indeed important. Anyway, I'm up, Space.